I love food. I still love food. Food is just
If you want to see the stars, get up off your astronaut and get flying. Yeah, get flying. Well, take your own advice. You're just a self-proclaimed psychiatrist with nothing to show for it.
Hey, what's up, you guys? This is a girl named B, and this is the vlog Meaningless Lyrics. And today I wanted to talk about something, a different type of vlog that I guess I just haven't done in a while. I haven't done a lot of vlogging since like last summer. But I wanted to do a vlog about something that kind of has come up a lot this week, and it has to do a lot with happiness. And I know I've talked a lot about happiness on this vlog, not just the vlog, these vlogs, but the blog Meaningless Lyrics too. I talk about happiness a lot, and it's become this really big goal in my life to be really happy. I guess I don't really talk about why I'm unhappy or why it's important to be happy. I mean, I've talked about a lot of things in my past, and I feel like if you want to go back and look at what I've talked about, you totally can. There's a few things from 2011 where I've talked about my life and everything, and I could put links down below if I remember stuff like that. But I guess we'll just get started in with a few kind of minor reasons why I've been unhappy. I grew up in kind of a love-hate household from about the time I was 6 to about the time I was 12. Things were a little rocky in our house. I think I can go into more detail about that later, but I think people looking into my life don't really realize what goes on in my life. I think they don't realize that I can get really, really unhappy, and I think it's always been something that's concerned my parents and hasn't been fun for a lot of people that I've dated. I highly doubt that it's entertaining to be with someone who is unhappy. So, given that I grew up in a household that was kind of rocky and had its very down moments, it wasn't until 2010 that I got really, really sad, and it was something that hit me really hard. I don't always talk about it in the blog, how hard that summer was, because I feel like I used the blog as a journal, but 2010 was a really, really hard summer and fall for me. I feel like I went through a lot of change. There was a death that fall, and it was really hard to take, and I felt really alone. And I remember being home alone was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. My brother had graduated from high school the spring before that summer, and I was basically home alone all of that summer, and every summer after that I've been alone, and it's a really hard thing to handle. I'm not good at being home alone. I start to think things in my mind, and I start creating problems in my life that aren't there. And that was one of the main things that happened in 2010, was I just started finding these problems in my life, and it started just getting out of hand until eventually I just was down all the time. And something that always comes back to me about that summer was that was the summer I tried to take my own life. And I know that's not a pretty and scandalous thing to be talking about in a vlog, but it's there and it's truthful, and that's what happened. I got upset enough that I tried to take my life, and went through a really rough time, and I don't think my parents fully understand the insanity of that situation, that I wasn't happy, and I couldn't find any place to be happy. I couldn't find anything to do that was gonna make me happy, and I was overweight, and let's go into that a little bit. So all of my life, I've been pretty heavy set up until now. I was a chubby little girl. I inherited some pretty manly genes from my parents, from my dad specifically. I was born with really bushy eyebrows. I was sweaty. I was really overweight, chubby little girl, and I loved food. I love food. I still love food. Food is just, But, I had a lot of self-esteem issues with that. Especially through my childhood from the age of 6 to 12, it was a really hard thing to, feel confident with myself and feel pretty, because I've always been told that I was a pretty person. I never felt pretty. I never felt comfortable in my skin. I always felt like I was striving to be this person. So in 2010, with everything that had happened, I just hit my breaking point and I couldn't do anything else. And the next year of everything after that was just trying to get myself to accept who I am. And in all honesty, this has been a crazy, insane couple of years. I've done a lot of things and I've grown a lot of confidence, and I think one of the biggest reasons why I got confident again was because I lost a lot of weight being in marching band, and I don't think a lot of people realize how intense marching band can be, but you haven't joined the Colorado marching band. Let's just put it at that. Marching band was probably the one thing that whipped my butt into shape, and I lost in the past couple of years 51 pounds, and now it's kind of just trying to accept the fact that I'm not fat anymore. And that's kind of a hard thing to think about when you've been in this skin, this suit your whole life, and you've been uncomfortable and you felt like people have stared at you and everything. It's weird to be in some place where I tried on a bikini the other day and I felt confident just standing in front of a mirror and looking at myself and not feeling like I wanted to hide every inch of my body. I felt like I could potentially go out into the world and be like, well, this is me. I know that I'm curvy. I know that there's a lot of places that I still feel anxiety over, but it's not the same as it was. I think one of the biggest things that I've done over the past few years is strive to be happy, and I think that was a choice, probably the best choice that I've ever made. Was one day, I was just moping around and laying around and crying, and I didn't understand why I was so unhappy, and then I just thought that question, why am I so unhappy? Why is suddenly all of these things getting to me all at once? And that's a really good question. I think after a while we start to get used to being unhappy with ourselves, and we start to find that as the norm, and that's not normal. Our human bodies are made to change and adapt to new things, and sometimes change can be really scary, and sometimes it's welcome. Sometimes that's the exact thing that we've always needed. And I think I really needed a slap in the face reality moment to kind of go back to asking that question, why am I unhappy? And so I decided something that I was going to try and be the happiest person I can possibly be, given that I'm not going to be happy all the time, and I'm not going to say that if you make that choice, you're just going to be this la da 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 happy person all the time. But it's definitely this changing experience that you have with yourself, that if you put in the effort every day to wake up and smile and to be happy even when you are so upset, then you end up start feeling happy. And something that I started to say to myself is to fake it until you make it. And that may not apply to every situation in life, but something that I did was I just faked being happy. And maybe that's not the right choice for everyone, but I faked being happy, I faked smiling, I faked talking happy until I started to really feel like I was happy. And then it shines out of you, it shines out of your being, and other people feel happy too. And I think that was a quote that I read too. I could put that somewhere. That when you're happy, people notice that you're happy. And something that we learned in church one time was that everywhere we go, we leave adjectives. Where if we're mean to someone, people view us as an angry person. So I wanted people to be able to see me and to see that I'm happy and that I'm comfortable in my life, because I am. And it feels like such a relief to finally have this time in my life when I feel really happy with myself. And I think this really went along with something that happened this week, that it kind of was like a reality check moment too, where you kind of have to reflect back on what you're doing. And I think I was kind of drifting away from why I was happy, and I feel like I started going back to what the norm was of sadness is a normal thing, not feeling loved and appreciated and respected is a normal thing. And I kind of went back to that and had a reflecting moment and kind of reflected on negative things in my life, and I actually kind of had a meltdown, and I know that's probably weird to say too, but I just threw out all the negative in my life, all the journals, things that I had written about and felt upset about. I felt like it was such a toxic thing to have all of these things in my life cluttering my life. So I threw them out, and yesterday I watched the trash man come and take all of my stuff away and take it to a dump. And that is a weird feeling when you know that you've spent so many years bottling up these feelings of anger and sadness, and then you just watch them get whisked away. And I feel like having a clean space and everything for that is a good way to start being happy. At least that's how I feel. I start to feel antsy after a while if my area is unclean, and I guess so do my parents, so it all works out in the end. The moral of the story is just to choose happiness. Everything in this life is so temporary, and I think going to Oklahoma last week was probably one of the most eye-opening things I will ever do in my entire life. That everything is so temporary, and I feel like out of everything that I would have wanted to take out of my house being destroyed, there's nothing really I would want, because all of these things, that TV and this guitar, is just a temporary thing, and it doesn't mean anything. And I think if you fill your life with happiness, that's what's going to end up getting you through life. That's what's going to be the thing that helps you live and enjoy life. And I think now that I'm here on this earth, I should be able to enjoy my life to the fullest, because this is such a beautiful, beautiful place. And I mean, it's such nice weather, and I'm looking out the window and the trees, and I'm looking at the clouds, and clouds, they rock. They rock. And I don't think people realize that anymore, that clouds rock. I know that not everyone has this magical life, and I think sometimes we see people doing nice things and we think that they have nice lives and that they are always happy. But I think when we compare ourselves to other people, it ends up just being a toxic thing. So live your life, love your life. That's the important moral of the story, really, in the end, is to love yourself, because that's what's going to get you through the rest of your life. and everywhere you go, you'll shine happiness on others too. So thank you for watching this vlog, and I promise I'll update more on the vlog when I can. This has been a weird couple of days. I felt kind of really sick, and I figured this was a pretty mellow thing to do. And I'll talk to you later, and goodbye.